Alright, so it's now time to try one of the best disc golf dyeing methods around, cell dyeing. Now if you didn't know, we've already done 2 disc golf dyeing tutorials on this channel, one using RIT Dye-More and shaving cream, and the other using Pro-Chem and cocoa butter. Both methods produced some excellent results that we're very proud of, and they were some of the easiest and cheapest ways to go about dyeing a disc. Now for us, cell dyeing has always been one of those dyeing methods we've wanted to try. We initially shied away from this method to start since it seemed to have the most amount of steps and materials required to produce a dyed disc. However, after some research and a bit of trial and error on our part, it's time for Disc Golf Dyeing for Newbies Part 3. So let's get into it. Now before going through the entire process of mixing the dyes and then dyeing the disc, let's go over what you'll need and why, as this method takes the greatest number of steps and materials to produce a dyed disc. So the first thing you're going to need is a bottle of Floetrol, and it's one of the main components of cell dyeing. You're really going to need a good amount of Floetrol. We suggest getting the 1-gallon bottle, especially if you're going to be using many different colors to dye your disc, as well as if you plan on doing more dyes in the future. Now the second thing you'll need are dyes to dye the Floetrol and thus dye your disc. Pro Chemical and dye powders are the ones best recommended for cell dyes, and we highly recommend getting a beginner disc golf dyeing starter kit. You shouldn't need to buy those big jugs of individual colors. Get a starter pack which comes with like 5 different colors. You don't get as much powder, but trust me, it lasts a very long time. The third thing you're going to need is some silicone oil. Now, silicone oil is used as a resistant or repelling agent to create patterns or designs on the disc surface. So it's what gives that cell-like look to the disc. It's been said that you can use WD-40, but we did a bit of testing before doing this video just to see if it would actually work, and the results weren't that great. So go that extra mile. There's even one that's even better than this one, a 3-in-1 that we'll put in the video description. The fourth thing you'll need are some containers, cups, or better yet, squirt bottles to mix your Floetrol with your dyes. And it's always a good idea to get ones that dispense well and that have a lid so you can then close it and use it later, but it's totally up to you. The fifth thing you'll need is something to dye your disc in, so a disc dyeing tray. Ideally, you want something that's shallow, leak-proof, and heat-resistant because we are going to use heat for this disc dyeing method. But ideally, you want something that's a bit larger than your disc, and if it's too big, you're going to be using that much more Floetrol. The sixth thing you'll need is a measuring spoon and cup. Pro Chemical and Dye uses the measurement of a ½ teaspoon, but you can use whatever you have at home to do these measurements. The seventh thing you'll need are a blowtorch and heat lamp because cell dyes require heat to get the desired results. The blowtorch is used for removing unwanted bubbles and manipulating the cells to create patterns, which you'll see later. And the heat lamp is used for speeding up the dyeing process and ensuring vibrant colors. You can use another heat source like your oven, which we did for this dye, but just keep in mind to keep the temperature very low, keep an eye on it, and also be conscientious that it will create some mild fumes, so make sure to have that oven stove fan on. The eighth thing you'll need is something to mix the dye with the Floetrol. Now obviously if you're using squirt bottles, it should mix pretty easily just by shaking it up, but sometimes you get some powders that stick to the outer rim of the bottle, so it's nice to break it up with something, and we use coffee sticks. The ninth thing you'll need is just some water. Not too hard to get some of that, but you don't need that much. It's said to only need 1 teaspoon per color, so don't go crazy with the water. The 10th thing you'll need are some protective gloves and masks, since some of the things we use for cell dyes like Floetrol, the Pro-Chem, and the blowtorch gas can be quite toxic. It's also not good for the skin. The 11th thing you'll need is first somewhere to dye that you feel safe. Obviously if you're using a table you don't want to wreck, put a towel down, but also you're going to need some napkins or some old towels that you can use because you don't want to have to deal with a giant mess afterwards. The 12th thing you're going to need is a plastic cup or some saran wrap depending on the method of cell dyeing you're looking to do, and this is what can be confusing for people. The cup method is the easiest, but we will talk about the saran wrap method as we go through the process. And finally, the 13th thing you'll need is going to be a premium plastic disc. We're going with the Innovatoro this time. White is ideal. You can obviously dye other colors, but if you're looking to get a specific look and you don't want any interference, white is going to be the way to go. All right, so now that you know the materials needed to do cell dyes, let's talk about how you're going to go about mixing your colors. Now, it's important to note that for any dyeing that you're doing, it's always a good idea to stick to colors that are similar on the color spectrum. If you choose something like a purple and a yellow, they could mix or interact in a poor manner. However, with cell dyes, this is a little bit more possible. You can take a little bit more risk with your colors, especially if you have the experience. So for today, we've already mixed a yellow, orange, blue, and black. We're going to be adding a pinkish red, and we'll show you how to do that in a second. They are all with ProChem except for the black. This is iodide poly, and supposedly it gives deeper blacks. And we're going to be mixing this throughout the different colors. It is a risk for sure, but hopefully it comes out pretty nice. All right, so let's show you how to go about mixing your dye with your Floetrol and silicone oil. Now, how much dye, Floetrol, and silicone oil to use is going to be very dependent on what containers you are using to mix it all with. Luckily, ProChem and Dye, and we just found this out recently, provides a chart if you use their dyes for any type of dyeing method you're looking to do. But yeah, let's show you how to do it. All right, let's get started. We got our Floetrol here. Now, we add a little bit of Floetrol to start before adding the dye. So we're gonna put that in there now. Then we're gonna add our dye. So we have our, what do we need? A 1 or a half teaspoon right here. So here we go. So we add 1 scoop, 2 scoops, and then maybe just a tiny bit extra, maybe not that much. Okay, now we need to add more Floetrol. Silicone oil will be coming shortly. Be pretty good there. Close it up. Now you'll notice, kind of doesn't matter where you put the dye, it'll stick to the outer side of the bottle that you're using. So that's what those coffee sticks are for, and we'll use those in a minute. What's really cool too is, and not many people mention this, is you can kind of already look at what the color is going to be by just kind of looking inside the bottle, and even you can spill some out if you would like to see what it's going to be like. So I'm going to take that skewer stick now and kind of mix what I just added, that little bit more that I added, but also kind of scraping around the edges. Obviously, if you put it on the bottom to start, you'd really want to get on the bottom there. All right, so now that we're done mixing the dye with the Floetrol, it's time to add the silicone oil. Now you don't need a ton. They say 3 to 4 drops per 4 ounces, so we're going to do about 7 here. 7, there we go. One thing forgotten to be added, just a little side note, of course, you just need to add a little bit of water. So don't forget to add 1 teaspoon of water to your mix. Okay. What they tell you about silicone oil is the more that you mix it, the smaller the cell dyes will actually be. So a couple of shakes is pretty good. Okay, so cell dyeing methods, there are a ton online, and we feel this is what was so difficult for us to figure out a way to give you this tutorial, is there's just so many ways to do it. For instance, some people like to do cell beds of layers, so they'll have colors with oil, silicone oil in it, and the same colors without. They'll put the silicone down first, and then they'll put their colors over top to create this kind of bubbly cell effect. There's also other people who just take their colors and spray them all around and just kind of make some random patterns. There's also people who manipulate it. With those methods, they do work and they create some of the coolest looking discs. However, they do take the most experience. So for us, what we found works the best is the cup method. So let us show you how to do it. All right, so for the cup method, there's really 2 ways to go about it. The one way that we're not doing today is to take your cup, cut a hole through the top, and then add your dyes one by one. The cup will then begin to move and disperse your dyes around, and that's just one of the methods. Now, the other cup method is to just add your dyes once again, one by one, in the order that you like. Put it on your plate. You gotta flip the plate upside down, flip it over, and then slowly move around your cup and lift as you release the dyes. And obviously, it's gonna create a bit of a random mix, but hopefully, it turns out well for this tutorial. So let's see how it goes. Just keep in mind that all of the colors that you're using need to have that silicone oil. Okay, so let's get started. I think one of the easier ways to do this would be just to pour, because you're gonna need quite a bit here. So I'm gonna pour this in. So now we're gonna add the orange. Something about painting is just so therapeutic. What I'm gonna do is I have the yellow and orange, then I'm gonna put just a tiny bit of black. Don't want a ton, just add a little bit of a layer, right? Okay. Now for the pinkish red, cover up that black as best as we can. Just a tiny bit of this blue. I don't want a ton. Those dark colors can really kind of mess with the look that you're going for. Just a layer of black between them. Too crazy. Okay, and just add each color one more time. This might be a pretty full cup. Orange. Get that black After just a little touch of black. Hope this black works out. First time trying black. And then the red. Whew. Feeling like there's gonna be a lot of ink. Not too much blue, just enough, right? And then let's go with a little black. Touch of black. Ooh, I can already see some green happening in there. Now for the moment of truth where it's probably gonna go really bad in front of all of you. I'm gonna start at like one of the tops and then maybe move it in a circular method. Gotta make sure that it stays. Oh man, I've never done this before. Let's go. So I'm just gonna kind of move it around in a way that this is not gonna be good, I can already tell. Maybe it will be. Okay, added a lot of dye. Wow. I mean, it looks amazing. All these different colors. Wow. Yeah, you can see those cells. Now, what they recommend doing, obviously trying to let this sit and kind of fill out. This is when you need that blowtorch. And what they say is you blowtorch it, gets rid of any kind of bubbles, but it also makes the cells that you see here a little bit bigger. And I kind of want to attack this yellow spot here so that it kind of matches the rest. Oh man, that blue. This could be really cool. It could be really ugly too. I think most likely mix too many colors, but don't want to play with it too much, quite honestly. You can see some of them popping from time to time. I mean, this looks wild. This looks really cool. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, I just can't say enough. This just looks so cool. Okay, so what's next is obviously taking the disc, putting it onto the tray, letting it sit, and then you want to heat it up using either a heat lamp or an oven or whatever kind of heat source that you have. We don't have a heat lamp, so we're going to use our oven at the lowest temperature, which is about 170 degrees Fahrenheit. But before we do that, we got to place this disc down. So they say to put like one end in first and then lay the other one down after. Okay, and I'm not gonna mess with it like at all. That's it. Okay, so the disc is now down. Time to put a heat source on it. We're gonna take it to our oven, put it in there, put the fan on. Make sure you put the fan on, leave it for about an hour, then let it sit for another 3 just to make sure that the dyes are adhering well to the disc, and then we'll show you what the results are.
Wow, that orange. Almost like a little bit of purple too.
It's looking pretty cool.
It's looking pretty cool. All things considered, using this random method, probably the best looking dye that I've done in terms of just colors. It's just so wild. There's so much to kind of look at. Looks amazing. Let's get it fully cleaned and dried off, do a little show and tell, and conclude. Let's do it.
Well, I think it's very obvious that cell dyeing is one of the coolest ways to go about dyeing discs. And honestly, we would say it's our favorites. I mean, just look at the result of our third attempt, because we did try it first and second off cam just to see if we can even do it. And I mean, this just looks incredible. The combination of colors, the black really makes the color stand out as well. Something we would highly recommend doing if you're looking at cell dyeing. Get a black, and the iDye Poly seem to work very well. But we got so excited about the result of this that we're like, hey, why don't we dye that other Toro that you have? So that's exactly what we did. Man, just look at it. It also looks fantastic. It's really hard to choose our favorite between the two. All in all, these discs are incredible. You gotta try cell dyeing if you haven't yet already. Thank you so much for watching. We greatly appreciate you guys. Join one of our communities if that interests you. We love making informative disc golf content. And we'll of course see you in the next one. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt.